Let's bring in Zöe Franklin, who is the Liberal Democrat candidate for Guildford at the next election. Zöe, morning to you.
Morning, James.
Let's get your reaction when this news came out yesterday.
Well, honestly, I'm just appalled by the whole concept of drilling at Dunsfold. It was made very clear by the councils locally, by residents locally, that they were not in favour of the original exploratory drilling, which the government proceeded to then overturn the council's decision last year. And so what we have now is there's a court case going on. It's due to come, the answer is due to come next week. And yet we have this announcement yesterday, which presents, as you said, the possibility that they'll be drilling at Dunsfold for 10 years for gas. When we're in the middle of a climate crisis, it's unfathomable that people are pushing ahead with extracting more fossil fuels out of the ground, destroying the Surrey Hills, ancient woodlands, wildlife habitats, and completely changing the Surrey Hills forever, when actually we should be investing and focusing our energies on investing in renewables, solar, wind, offshore wind, onshore wind, all these different things, not gas and oil.
Now, it isn't drilling yet, but they do have permission to explore. It does make sense to know what's there for sure, doesn't it?
But does it? If we are serious about tackling the climate crisis, we should be investing our exploratory and financial energies on renewables. Actually, it's irrelevant as to whether the fossil fuels are there. If we were serious about the climate crisis, we wouldn't be continuing to rely on fossil fuels. And I think that's
but the reality is that that we are going to be relying on fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. And although the great goal is for renewables, surely the two have got to go hand in hand. And would it not make sense that we can get gas locally rather than having ships full of gas going across the oceans and all that kind of stuff? That would arguably make some kind of sense.
But my understanding is there's nothing written into any sort of paperwork going forward that says this gas will stay in the UK. So there's that part of the answer to your question, James. And there's also, I know that people question the reliability of renewables, but actually we are an island, we are surrounded by water, we have good solar panel technology has moved on hugely, which means it is far more reliable for solar generation, wind as well. I still maintain we should not be looking to the past and focusing on extracting fossil fuels, particularly from places like the Surrey Hills. And in fact, I'd just like to say, it wouldn't matter whether this was in Lancashire or in Surrey. This damage and vandalism to the countryside is not acceptable. And I stand by the point that actually we shouldn't be looking to the past and extracting fossil fuels. It won't fix our energy price or supply problems in the short term. And actually the focus has to be on renewables.
Right. The minister did agree to allow exploration, saying the impact will be short term and overall this cannot be considered a valued landscape. And he backed the planning inspector. Were they wrong then?
They were wrong. I fundamentally believe that. And actually, when you talk to residents locally, they are angry both about the wanton destruction potentially of the natural landscape, the impact it's going to have on businesses and local residents and the communities there. They cannot understand why the government is allowing us to go ahead, given that we know we are in the midst of a climate crisis. Residents and the local councils have been very clear on this, and yet the government overturned that local democratic decision and pushed ahead with it. And I'd just like to say, it's interesting that in the past, the local MP, Jeremy Hunt, and Angela Richardson have both said that they are against it. And yet, Jeremy Hunt is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and it appears that he is not in a position to be able to fully challenge and make a difference on this particular issue.
So thanks for your time. Liberal Democrat candidate for Guildford at the next election.